Let's go ahead and call this meeting to order. It is now officially 3:30 on a great Thursday afternoon, October 27, 2016. Let's go ahead and open up this meeting. Do we have any public comment today? If we don't, then I'll Christine, if you'll read the public comment section, please, so we can kind of get started.
The board takes public comment on all items in the regular agenda. Public input on a regular agenda item will be taken at its appropriate discussion. Public input on an item not on the agenda or consent agenda may be identified and requested for consideration by the board at this time. The board may request an item to be placed on a future agenda or for a consent agenda item to be moved to the regular agenda for public comment.
Okay, so if that makes sense to anybody and you would like to come forward and ask or to add anything or to do anything under public comment, please come forward and we'll entertain or we'll listen. If there be none, going once, going twice, going three times, we'll move over to consent agenda, and we need to approve the September 22nd, 2016 meeting minutes. And our wonderful recording secretary, Ida, has done a great job. And so if everybody's had a chance to review those, which should be in your packet, I'll entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes for September 22nd. Well, you'll move, Mary will move, and
Second.
Christina seconds. Is there any other comments, questions, concerns? Any public comments? And let's take it to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstain? Then the motion carries, and you have the minutes recorded. Let's move over to the regular agenda. We have the consideration of approving the July 14th, 2016 amended meeting minutes, which Carl's going to give us a rundown on that and explain himself, because I think he...
Quick explanation. We took the minutes, we drafted the minutes, brought them to the board. We all reviewed it and would approve the minutes from the July meeting. And when we were getting ready for the council meeting regarding the master plan for Civic League Park and the garden there and the tree removals, we noticed that we had failed to record the board's recommendation in the July 14 minutes. So we went back, we rewatched that portion of the meeting, and we added a sentence in there that reflects the action that was taken at that meeting.
Okay. So we have an amended correction to the minutes proposed from the July 14th meeting.
Right.
Yes? Okay. So, yes, ma'am.
I'll make a motion to approve the amended meeting minutes.
Second.
Okay. Did you get that? Thank you. Any questions, comments? Any public comment? Let's move for a vote. All those in favor of this motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed or abstain? The motion carries, and you have your corrected and amended minutes. Thank you. Let's move over to the discussion of adopting an ordinance to limit smoking in the parks in order to give staff direction, some direction in this matter. So we've talked about this before. Give us a quick update, and we'll continue the discussion.
Right. At the last meeting, the board asked for us to continue the discussion of this, so we're coming back. Everybody's had some time to think about what they might want to see if we do follow this course. I do know we have some folks from the public here who would like to talk about the matter, and our city attorney is here again to help us in the discussion. So what we talked about last time is just right now the existing ordinance talks about the prohibition of smoking in parks and sports complexes where folks gather to sit to watch the sports or activities. Also in other public places where folks gathered to watch performances and such. So last time we talked about different cities, what they have in terms of their ordinances. Some cities have just a prohibition of smoking in designated areas such as playgrounds and pavilions. And some cities have or are looking at doing a complete ban on smoking in all park properties. So you've kind of got the full range of allowing smoking to not allowing smoking. And so we need some direction if this is a path you want us to go down in terms of proposing to council an amendment to this ordinance.
Okay, let's open it up for some discussion. So I think the issue that I think most for myself personally is that you know, making people not smoke in certain areas is probably an uncomfortable position, but for the overall safety and regulation, for the overall safety and well-being of the general public, it's probably something we really need to tackle and really put the pencil to the paper and figure out if it's feasible and to see if it's something that we want to do. So, I mean, and I think our options really are complete ban or
Limiting.
limited ban, and
Or, as we talked about last time, designated places
Yes.
where you can smoke at the parks.
so from a financial perspective, what would that consist of? Would that consist of signage, monitoring, and then from an ordinance standpoint, how would that be enforced? How would that be monitored? How would that be? So I think there's a lot of dynamics in that, and I'm just not sure.
As far as cost, I think it's just the signage, really.
Signage.
And as far as enforcement, that's just typically based on complaint. So if somebody called either police non-emergency or called the Parks Department, somebody would go out and issue a citation.
Not too bad.
No, I mean, we do it now for most buildings and lots of places, so I think it's more just educating the public that is going to be the issue.
Exactly. I think if an ordinance is passed that does prohibit smoking somehow in the parks, I think it creates a culture where folks, expect that you're not allowed to smoke at a playground or something. So it becomes self-enforcing. Other folks might see that and ask somebody, do you know about the ordinance?
I will say this, as far as enforcement's concerned, we have to prove the elements of, a case when we go to court. So the more specific we can be, the better it is. So a complete ban's easy. If you see a cigarette in a park, that's prima facie evidence they're violating the ordinance. If we have a prohibition that says something like 25 feet from a playground, we're going to have to prove they were 25 feet or closer to that playground in order to prosecute that case effectively. So keep those kind of things in mind as well.
So we don't reinvent the wheel. I know from your past experience, what are one of the better options here as far as, it sounds like we probably should lean towards just a complete ban, in my opinion.
Right. That is the easiest to enforce, but as I explained at the last meeting, that did cause some concerns with city staff who are smokers. We had to accommodate that. I mean, I guess we didn't have to, but we did accommodate that in Abilene by designating certain areas in parks as non-public. So we would have probably issues like that would come up here. Right now, it's all buildings, so any completely enclosed facility in a park, and as well as Carl said, places where spectators gather are already included. So really what we're talking about are swimming pools, trails, playgrounds, those kind of places, and whether we want to prohibit them on just those places or throughout the park. And really that is, completely policy,
It includes all the open areas, too.
if we did a complete ban.
So i.e. the lake, because don't we have park areas there.
Right.
So that's my main concern, is that I think it makes sense. We should ban completely at playgrounds. Anywhere there's children, there should be a ban. But when you start going out to the lake, and that's an open area, and it's regulated by the park or maintained or under the park supervision, then you're out there on Easter, and there's quite a number of people smoking. Is that a violation of the ordinance, and is there a fine permitted by that? Or
Are you
what
talking about on the water or on the shore?
on the shore?
On the shore, if we did a total ban, it would include any park areas at the lake as well. We could exclude those. I mean, we can always write exclusions. It's these areas with the exception of these.
That makes it even better.
Yeah, you got lots of options.
Okay. I'm on board.
I'd like to ask a question. Is there a safety problem? Have we ever had fires started by smokers in the parks?
Mike could speak to that. It seems like I do recall a few. Do you want Mike to speak to that?
Well, yeah, because I think it would be a consideration, a stronger consideration than just emotions and feelings.
Mike Hitchcock, Parks Manager. Yes, we've had small, very contained fires from time to time. Nothing large, nothing that ever damaged any property, mostly grass, overgrown weeds, that type of things. We had some arson, but not from smoking just small isolated things.
Okay, thank you. My argument is not very valid then.
Okay. Anybody else? Mary?
Catch many complaints at all about smoking from anybody? I asked that because I've spoken with people, even a couple people who are with the Smoke Free San Angelo, who, even to some of those guys, smoking at a park was a non-issue. I just wonder if we've caught, or you particularly got any kind of complaints about it where it's.
I can't recall. Ida, she gets most of the phone calls. I think the biggest concern we've had is just where folks gather. It's tournaments, performances. But otherwise, I haven't heard a complaint. Don't recall hearing. Good point. We do see the effects of the smoking in the large quantity of cigarette butts on the park grounds.
Any other words of wisdom from anybody? Well, then I think let's continue yes. Well, okay. Well, I'll stop here. Let's take some public comment and see if there's any public comment at this point.
Yes, I'm Carol Kahutek, and I actually worked on the Smoke Free San Angelo campaign, if you will. And I know we had some of the public come up to us and say, is this going to include parks, playgrounds? And our response to them was, let's take baby steps, because we really didn't know what we were up against, what we were going to face, and even getting the public, buildings and places of employments. So that's kind of why we didn't introduce it then, because we wanted it for the majority. But again, there were several who asked if the parks were going to be included. And common sense would just tell me to include it because we have children in the parks. So that's all I need to say.
Thank you.
My name is Ray Valadez. I'm one of the prevention directors at the Alcohol and Drug Abuse Council. And so we've just been trying to garner support over the past couple of months to try to enact this to prohibit, or at least set aside a place for smoking in the parks. We focus on prevention in our department, so we really stress, not smoking in general. And so we also have a youth group, and they did an environmental scan, which basically means they go out into the environment and they kind of look at some of the factors that are going on. And so we did go to Unidad Park at one point with the kids, and they counted the cigarette butts and they counted the tobacco litter, and we have photos, and I don't have the numbers with me, I'm sorry, but we did. The kids did notice some of the litter, so we do see some of the effects from it. And of course it is a health concern. Secondhand smoke is a health concern to everybody around the person that's smoking. So I'm with, I'm sorry, I forgot her name, but it is a health concern for the kids in our parks. So.
Thank you. Yes. Did you have a comment, sir?
No, I'm here to
I'm just teasing.
get direction.
I thought you were going to light up a cigarette. I thought, no. Yeah.
Would be illegal.
Okay, so it sounds like we have a really good case to really look into this and to try to propose some ordinances and maybe kick those around and see what we kind of think.
Whatever the recommendation is, if it recommends any kind of change to the existing ordinance, we would probably take a discussion item to council first before we drafted any specific language to present to them. But you may want to think about this and maybe make a final recommendation at the December meeting. I don't think we should wait any longer than that, but we do need some kind of direction in terms of specifics if you do want to recommend something.
Okay. Well, I suggest let's do that now, so that way we're not
good with that.
Continuing to wait and wait. I mean, we've talked about this already once. We're here today. We've had some good input. So let's think about this for just a minute. What are we thinking, guys? Come on.
What I'm thinking is that due to the numerous areas where we have cigarette butts, and we have risk of fires close from the kids playing, or in the parts of the park where we have organized playground, but also outside of that, I would say we ban smoking in the parks except in some very designated areas. That would be my take.
Mary, what do we think?
I would say, for me, banning the smoking as it pertains to all the playgrounds, and maybe having just an area just for the smokers, but I want to leave maybe.
Mike?
Your
I'm
mic.
sorry. Leave the lake out of this one, but just banning everything in the city limits, but leaving the lake out.
Maybe if we have designated areas in the lake area, or just all the lake completely?
All the lake out completely.
Okay?
So ban in the parks within the city, but not the lake parks?
Correct.
Okay.
I'm good with having designated areas at all locations, but with the majority understanding that the wide area is non-smoking, but little designated spots for smokers to go to.
Let's see.
Oh,
I
okay.
think he's having a hard time hearing you, so.
Yeah, I just want to have designated areas at different locations.
Including playgrounds?
Not playgrounds.
Not
no.
playgrounds, just open areas?
Yeah.
Okay. Ed?
Still overall kind of on the fence on this one, whether outside of some of the cleanup and small fire hazard, I mean, to me, I mean, a lot of it seems like a non-issue as far as the secondhand smoke and things of that, at least to me right now. But if I was to go the other way, I do like the idea of having some dedicated areas for them and maybe even excluding parts of the lakes, like the exception areas that was mentioned earlier. But right now, I'm still kind of on the fence and think it's not really truly an issue just yet.
Well, I kind of like Carol's approach where we take baby steps. I really believe that if we continue to educate the public, continue to educate, work with the people who do smoke, and they have the right to smoke, and that's okay. But I think we should really start with the playgrounds for sure, that's my opinion, and then move over to the more common, to the open areas, and then do a little bit more research, figure that out, and see if that's how we want to approach that in the future. So that's my 2 cents. But for sure, all playgrounds.
Ban
At playgrounds, yes.
Does it include like a buffer area like the city attorney was talking about? The 20?
Sure. Yes.
So Odessa is the most similar of the ordinances that I looked at that does that, but they specify specifically baseball fields, softball fields, soccer fields, volleyball courts, basketball courts, tennis courts, playgrounds, aquatic centers, swimming pools and facilities, restrooms, and other public recreation areas. So are you talking about just the playground with play structures, or like we do have?
All those areas sound great
Okay.
to me. That's just me. My 2 cents.
So include all those areas?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
We have a collective recommendation.
It sounds to me like the collective recommendation is to completely ban in all those specific areas that that were mentioned in the Odessa ordinance. And it sounds to me like with a designated area. And at this point in time, we would not approach the open area at the lake or the lakes at this time.
So when you say designated area, does that mean designated area within those amenities? So like a designated area within a playground, people could still smoke?
What do you think on that?
I was thinking more, not within the playground itself, but within the park that has a playground on it. I wouldn't think within a playground. So, like unit, yeah, like unit, when I say a certain, but if you mark off an area maybe that this could be because like Unidad's a pretty decent sized area, and you've got just the one playground area where all the playscape is, and that's where the kids are mostly congregate. But I would think that it would be away from that, not a spot in the middle of it where the kids
If
are
we're
running
going
right
to
by.
just ban it on the playground area itself, then the whole rest of the park would be the designated smoking area. You wouldn't have to, in that case, designate smoking. They would just need to walk away from the playground to smoke.
So if I'm at the swimming pool, same concept?
The way that Odessa handled that was within the fenced area of the pool. So if you're standing inside the fence, you can't smoke. If you're standing outside the fence, you can, which makes,
Okay.
I would say, a certain distance, from the fence. Otherwise, you might as well just,
Okay. So
Don't
let's put that
travel.
in language and let's put that in writing so we can, I think we're on the right path. I think we're on the right track. And it sounds like Odessa is pretty close to how we would like to draft the ordinance. I think we just modify that to suit our needs. Does that make sense? Are we okay?
Is it good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you want to make a formal recommendation?
Let's do so, sure.
And will we be presenting this to council, or we come back with our proposed language here and then go to council?
Which do you prefer? Do you want to revisit this one more time in terms of what the language might be?
You wanna
before we
look at
take
it one more time?
council?
I think so.
Look-
I'd like to see
Especially
it.
with, I know with these two, it was being Don who brought it up in the first place. I'm certain he would want to take a look at it.
Okay. We've got the meeting coming up in December, early December.
All right. But we have some good direction, and we got some broad strokes we can kind of sketch out, and then fill in the parameters, cut the treetops, and then narrow it down and figure it out, right? Okay, great. Okay, great
Plant some
discussion.
trees.
Okay. All right. Moving on. We need to move to consideration of recommending an amendment to the park renovation plan funded by the 4B half-cent sales tax revenues. Thank you.
Okay, this goes back to the 2004 referendum for the half-cent sales tax. When that passed 2004, we got $1 million to do park renovation projects. And so we came up with a list of those projects, and most of those projects were parks to renovate which we could not get CDBG funding for. And so we moved along. I think about 2010, 325,000 of that 1 million was moved over to help fund the Red Arroyo Trail project that took council action. So we were left with the remainder of that from the $1 million. And so we've proceeded with the plan. We started with Meadow Creek Park. We renovated that. All this work is done in-house, very little of it contracted, maybe by some work by electricians and plumbers. Bradford School Neighborhood Park was the next one that we did. We just finished that one. We've started the process to renovate Brentwood Park on the north side of town. And this was a council-approved plan in terms of which parks we would tackle and in which order. And so roughly we've got, including Brentwood, about $535,000. The current plan is to do Brentwood, and you see the budget there, then go to Brown Park, and I'll show you in a second where those parks are, Santa Rita Park. And our proposed revised plan is to go ahead and do Brentwood Park. We started that process, and instead of doing Brown, shift that money over to Unidad Park, and I'll show you some justification here in a second why we would like to do that, and then go ahead with the remaining funds to tackle Santa Rita Park. Primary justification is Unidad Park is heavily used. We all know that, especially now that the trail's been developed. We see a lot more folks going out there. It's a place for several special events. It's a much larger park. It's more visible and gets a lot of traffic. The playground equipment, particularly the fall zone area, is in deteriorating condition. It's been about 20 years, if you can believe it or not. If you remember when that project was done back in the mid-90s, it's been 20 years. So that's about the time that you will see the need for replacing playground equipment in fall zone materials such as this. Brown Park is much less used. It's a smaller park. It's surrounded by homes, residential area, and it has seen some recent improvements in terms of turf improvements and some other small grounds improvements. And Brown Park will take less funds to bring back up where it needs to be from where it's at now. That's the primary justification for requesting to shift that money over. That's our recommendation. show you the parks. This is Brentwood Park on the north side of town. That's 19th Street, Junius. This is Van Buren, I think. And this is Howard Street, Jefferson. And this is Forest Park. It's a long park. It's very narrow, but it's a really nice park. Some ground shots. It has a pond on the east end, which we acquired about 13 years ago. It has a few open spaces that are used quite heavily for practices. And then it has some large trees. This is the nice area where we're looking at putting the new playground and pavilion. This is Brown Park. This is Johnson Street. This is Lincoln Street. This is Tuig. So it's north of ASU. It's a lot smaller. It only has a tennis court. It does have a walking trail around it, and it has a few old pieces of playground equipment and old benches. Picnic tables. Some ground shots. It does have one open area which is used quite a bit for practices as well. This is Unidad Park. Most folks are familiar with it. As you see, the fall zone material is in deteriorating condition. We've patched as best we can, but the integrity, we're losing the integrity of it. It's just continuing to fall apart. The playground equipment still is in decent shape. I would say fair shape. But what we can do, we can actually go in, remove all the fall zone material, and do a retrofit of the existing playground, kind of bring it back to life with new panels, new slides, new activities. So it almost looks, it virtually looks like a new playground. This is Santa Rita. We're not proposing any changes there. So that is our recommendation. And go back to this other slide. The thought is here, we would need about $300,000 to do Unidad Park well. The thought here is that we could match that with some local grants and fundraising. And even if we didn't reach $300,000, we could still do a really good job in replacing the fall zone material and the playground equipment. We just might not be able to do some of the more outline improvements. We could reduce this a little bit, maybe to $125,000, and keep $50,000 for Brown Park, maybe to replace some playground equipment, and maybe do some court improvements. But it doesn't need a whole lot more than that that we can't tackle in-house. Now, I will be taking a recommendation to City Council because I'll need their authorization to shift the money around if we do that.
Okay, let's talk about it. So it looks to me like you want to move from the Brown Park renovation and move up the ladder to the Unidad Park renovation. Now, Brown Park has 175. But we can move the 175
That's my proposal.
to the Unidad
Right.
completely?
That's my proposal.
Okay. So would there wouldn't be any money left over for Brown?
No. And there's not a whole lot there that we could do. We could put a playground equipment there. There just hasn't been a strong expressed desire to do that.
What was the 175 scheduled? What was that
It was
earmarked for?
It was for complete renovation, and this is a plan that goes back to 2004.
Yeah, way
Right.
back.
So, and that's the amount of money was really based on the size of the park,
Right.
the
I see.
acreage of the park.
I see. But Unidad, the size of that park, is probably about 125,000 short of what it completely needs. Right.
Right.
So to me, it'd be a really great move, fiscally and monetary and logistically, to move that money from Brown to Unidad.
It does put the monkey in our back to get some additional funds raised
Right.
for that, which
Grants and so forth.
don't have a problem
maybe.
trying.
Okay. That's just me. I'm just talking out loud, so I don't want to take too much time. But anybody else? Are we think anything different? Or we questions for Carl?
The driving factor for me is just the amount of use that Unidad Park gets.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree. Like, we do have a lot of people who go over there now, especially, like you mentioned, Red Arroyo Trail. And there's a lot more people. I see a lot more cars over there now than I had seen in the past. It's just picking that thing up even this late in the fall. I mean, we've had nice weather that's helped, but seeing all the people over there, and that's kind of becoming a focal point. We're having a lot of runs and different activities and down there. That'd be nice to have that match the rest of the trail and all the work that's gone in with it.
So the bathrooms there are complete.
They're brand new.
They're right.
Right.
So now we just need to work on the playground.
Playground, the fall zone area.
Nothing for the pavilion or anything like that.
No, the pavilion's in decent,
It's in decent, yeah.
good shape.
Okay.
We might do some minor improvements elsewhere. Event infrastructure, like some electrical pedestals, and because it's used not a lot, but it is used occasionally for special events like the Children's Fair.
Correct. Right.
On that one, Carl, would you still keep as far as that swing that's accessible for the individuals with disabilities like the children?
That's the intent, but we may look to see what's new because that one has been problematic. You're talking about the one where the wheelchair, it has been problematic just because other people don't like to use it. Some other people don't like to use it like it's supposed to be used. But that's a good question. I mean,
For
the
me, I
intent
would-
is to keep it highly accessible, the whole park.
I just would like that we accept the recommendation made by the staff.
Okay. So it sounds like you're making a motion to accept the recommendation presented by Carl today. Am I correct in saying that? Okay.
Move.
Thank you, sir. Who would like to second that
I'll
motion?
second that
Thank you,
motion.
Mary. Is there any other questions, comments, discussion, guidance for Carl to take this recommendation to the city council? Okay, there being none, let's take it. Is there any public comment at this time? I'll hold for a minute if you need me to. No, okay. Let's call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstain? The ayes carry and the motion passes. Good luck to you, sir.
Thank you.
Count, and the words of Mayor Morrison, count that down as unanimous. 5-0. Okay, so we're good with that one?
We're good.
Let's move over to item number 5, which is consideration of recommending a resolution supporting the city's hosting of the Texas Recreation and Park Society 2019 Institute and Expo.
We hosted this conference in 2008. It's funny because at the time we were anticipating this facility being ready, and it wasn't at the time, so we had to host the event at Angelo State University, and it worked well. It was a very successful event for Texas Recreation and Park Society. It was a good, I mean, they earned good revenue from it, and they had a lot of fun. We just have a lot to offer here in San Angelo, and the downtown, the river, and the fort. They really enjoyed it. So we're asking, we want to put in a bid to host this again in 2019 here at the convention center, and we need to, as part of that packet, include a resolution from City Council that council will commit staff's time and resources, the facilities to host the event. And so we're asking for your recommendation to support that resolution before we take it to City Council.
Okay. Is there anything else we need to look at? I mean,
It's a big conference.
the conference.
1,200 people. There's exhibitors from all over the Southwest and folks from all over Texas come here and the Southwest.
Is there any supporting monies or anything that needs to be turned in?
No, really there's no direct cost other than, there's an indirect cost, staff time and the facilities. But there's no financial impact.
And just out of curiosity,
Negative.
if the city leased or rented this facility, would you have to go through civic events? Would that be would that be an in-kind?
It would be an in-kind.
An in-kind, okay. Service
At this point, we're taking it to city council first.
for the resolution. I
Right.
see. I got you. Okay. Anybody have all for it?
Sounds good.
Sounds good. So we need to make a recommendation, correct?
Yes.
It sounded like Christina wanted to recommend your resolution.
Yes, do.
All right. And maybe Ed wants to second that?
Second it.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Any public comment? Let's take it for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Let us know. Hopefully it'll all work out. Moving right along, we got to report on the efforts to determine the feasibility and development of a community recreation center.
Last time we talked about this was July, and then went on vacation. Brent Casey, the recreation manager, has asked to kind of spearhead this. He's not here today, but where we left it last time was that we discussed it. We wanted to move forward with it, and then we talked about setting up a subcommittee to help kind of determine the feasibility and see how to move forward with it. But we didn't set up that subcommittee.
So we need to do really two things. We need to set up the subcommittee and try to meet before the end of this year, at least once.
I agree.
Okay. So you let us know when, and who's all on the committee, do we know?
We don't have it yet.
We don't have it yet?
We have the staff members, we don't have the board members.
Oh, we did.
Oh, we did.
Yeah, I thought we did.
Who are they?
It's myself, Gloria, Ed. Was Francis? No, I think either Francis or Dawn.
He wants to advise, but not be on the committee.
So it was myself, Ed.
Okay, that's my bad. We'll have a meeting next month.
Sir?
We'll have a meeting next month.
Okay. All right.
And one thing we did do, and it should be coming out, I wrote a column for the Standard Times to talk about what this is and why
Right.
we're looking at doing it. It should be coming out in the next few weeks.
Okay. So make sure we need to do two things for sure, right? Establish the subcommittee and meet at least one time in 2016.
We will do that.
Perfect.
Members?
So,
Louis, Gloria, Ed, three. And then we have our staff folks, yeah.
great. So let's, anything else on that? Do we need to do anything?
No.
Okay,
There's no action.
great. So I think we need to report on the summer recreation programs, please. Although we're just a week away from November, but.
Still summer.
Exactly. It feels
Time
like it.
flies. Time flies. My name's Diana. I'm a recreation supervisor. In your packets, you should have had something attached that gave a report for what we have been doing with the recreation department. Before I get started on the summer camp, because Carl told me I need to make it quick, there's some stuff in here that if you have any questions, we're doing some different things. We've done a family camp out. We've done our movies in the park. We've added some food trucks to that event. We've done some kayaking classes. There's youth baseball that we started up that we've been doing in the spring and the fall. So there's different events that we've actually tried and we've been relatively successful with. If you have any questions on any of those, ask me. You can ask Brent, Carl, whatever after the meeting. So the summer camp program that we did, my main one was the summer camp, which was at Southside and Carl Ray. We've done this for the past several years. We still had 147 children that participated in the camp. We had 42 children that participated in our swim camp program, which is located at our main office. We walk them over, they do swim lessons, and then we keep them the whole day. The intentions of that camp were so that parents who work and can't take their children to swim lessons during the day, because usually they start at 9 a.m. in the morning and we finish them up around 11, was so that those parents could take them all day to a place where they didn't have to worry about leaving work, finding someone to come pick them up, but still being able to do the swim camp program. So that was the main summer camp program that we had. We had a real successful year. I don't think we had any major issues. Most of the parents are pleased with the program, and I have a lot of return on the same kids, usually year after year. The other thing that we had over the summer, it was our youth track program. We had 107 kids that signed up for track this year. That's, I think, about the same as what we had last year. We had 16 people that qualified for state this year, which was hosted in McAllen, Texas. And in the packet that you guys have, there's a list of names of all the kids who went to McAllen and participated. The Love Municipal Pool, this year it gives you the breakdown of the cost and what the revenue that we brought in. We did try to do a couple different things. We had flick and floats. We did 2 of them this year. I think in the past we've done 1. We're trying to increase that. They've talked about doing some other things. Now that the pool's been open for 5 years, I think, 4 seasons, going on the 5th season, we're trying to come up with some other ideas to bring people to come back to the pool. The news kind of worn off, so we're looking at doing maybe adding some more movies, doing a twilight swim so families can come after hours, because we close at 6 o'clock, so parents that work until 5 o'clock, it's sometimes difficult for them to get to bring their kids except on a Saturday or Sunday. So we're talking about throwing the idea around about doing a twilight swim. And Sandra Cern has been over the pool the past session. I think she's really open to doing some new programs out at the pool. It was pretty good. We actually didn't have to fight the rain too much this summer. As far as thunder, we had a couple days that we closed down early, but I think the year before that, it was pretty tough on us as far as closing down, 1 to 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So that's really all I have on the summer programs. Does anyone have any questions on those programs?
So were pool parties pretty good this year? I mean, this looks like 22,000.
Yeah, our pool parties, we were pretty much booked. I think all of our early times, we have a 6:30 to 8:30 time slot, and those were pretty much all full. We have a 8:45 to 10:45 time slot, and I think there were a couple days that they didn't, mostly during the week. The weekends, of course, they filled up, but those time slots, we open 2 weeks before the actual pool season starts, and I believe we were full with school parties every day. So we'll actually open up for pool rentals and pool parties, school parties, March, right after spring break. And believe it or not, we have usually a line of people that are waiting to come in and make their reservation. So we usually on our pool parties do pretty good. It's only that late time slot, but right now we don't. I mean, in order to offer 2 different times on Fridays, Saturdays, that's just how it works out with the late time slot.
The normal pool, the normal pool hours close at 6 o'clock throughout the
Correct.
week, right?
Yes, sir.
To allow for the pool parties in the evening,
Yes.
right? Is that the logic behind that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure.
And the only other things, we have the flick and float, the movies that we've done. So we don't do pool parties on those nights because we close it down and we just open it up for, it's basically the general admission to come in, $5, and then we set up the movie screen, and then they have concessions. So the kids can watch the movie while they're in the pool. They just can't go down to the deep end because we close that part off. But the other part, we might, if we decide to do the twilight swims so that families can come out, that might be another night that we designate without swim parties. But trying to get the families to be able to come out there. I think that's one of the biggest things that we hear from the parents is that they don't, sometimes they just don't have time to take them swimming because it closes before they're off of work.
Busy.
So really, it's just to try to accommodate the working parents and get them out there to spend time with their kids.
On the summer camp, what's the cap on the number of children that you can take for the summer camp?
We have 60 at Southside and 60 at Carl Ray. Our numbers usually, it kind of depends. We start off with having about 70 that sign up at each campsite because so many people take vacations and we don't do any kind of holding fee on it. So we usually average about 55 kids per week. Now, once August comes, the last 2 weeks of August, our numbers drop down to about 35 per site. And then the very last week, we combine into one campsite just so it's easier. As far as staffing goes, we have college kids that are leaving, they're going back, and the numbers are lower, so we go down to one site. With the swim camp program, we do 20 kids that show up at our main office.
What's the age group as far as the summer camp?
It's kinder through 6th grade,
And the staff to ratio versus the kids?
10 to 1.
Okay. And are the activities structured? What kind of activities do you have for them?
Yeah, we usually, well, the drop-off time is 7:30. So we usually have free time till about 8:30 in the mornings, maybe closer to 9, because it just varies when the parents get here, and it's real staggered. And so we kind of have a free time in the morning, and then we do snacks, usually like some kind of breakfast cereal, and then we do organized gameplay. So we might do an arts and craft activity and then for 30 minutes, and then we go into the gym and we might play a game of knockout or basketball, and then we might go back into the gym and do board games. And so they're pretty much structured in 30-minute segments, but then they alternate and we change them out. Sometimes if a game's going, it takes a little longer, then it might take us an hour to finish an activity or whatever. And then in between that time, we usually go on field trips. So Tuesdays, and this year we alternated Fridays. We went to Love Municipal Pool from 1 to 4. So, we do the scheduled activities up until lunchtime, and then we go to lunch, come back, get ready to go to the pool. So if you've ever gotten 4 kids ready to go to the pool, imagine 60 kids. It takes about an hour to get everybody, all the towels and sunscreen and goggles and whatnot. But and then we do different other field trips, which they include the skating rink. We'll go to the movies, nature center. And I think this year ASU Planetarium, the new director, is pretty excited to get us in there working with them again. So, no problem. Anybody else?
I just want to point out that it seems like here lately the parks has been really emphasized for us. And I just want to make sure that recreation is also part of our umbrella that we're under. So parks and recreation. And so thank you for all your service, and thank you for all the works and the programs and everything that you do. And I know it's a big task, but it's also extremely important to serve to our community members, and especially to the children and the people that we serve. So, pat yourself on the back, and thank you to you and your staff, okay?
Well, we appreciate it, but,
Thanks,
the
Dinah.
parks are doing a good job, and it's opening it up for us to do more activities through the parks, too, so,
It's a balance, parks and recreation.
It's a
That's right.
And recreation.
Happy marriage.
yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, gosh, we're really going on here. So now we just need to get a future meeting date
Right.
and make an announcement, and then we can adjourn.
Some announcements before the meeting dates. I do want to point out we do have some term expirations coming up. Louis, Mary, and Gloria
Don't applause anybody. Just
be finishing their second terms in December, so we'll have to go off for at least a year before they can come back. So we'll be looking for replacements. If you know anybody who's interested, please send them my way so that we can get them to fill out the application. In terms of dates, our next meeting date, that's the one we combine November and December, so it's December 8th here at 3:30. That's a Thursday. And of course, we'll be emailing you this date. That will be followed the next day, Friday, December 9th, by a lunch. We'll have a lunch for Parks and Recreation. The board is invited to come. It'll be at Fort Concho Barracks 6, Friday, December 9, 11:30. More will come out on that. And we had our first Brentwood Park meeting earlier this week. We have the second one coming up December 5th at Austin Elementary School. And if you can, please come to that Monday, December 5th, 5:45.
How'd the last one go? Did you get a lot of turnout?
We had a total of 6 people from the neighborhood, and 2 of those folks both are neighbors and staff members. So we did have more staff than we had residents, and Christina showed. So we're going to get the word out better for the second meeting. You just never know. We did have the media there. Fox and KLST was there.
There'll be 3?
3.
Will there be 3 meetings altogether?
Yes. The one after that will be in January 23rd, after the holidays, 5:45.
Where at?
At same place, Austin Elementary. What we do with the first meeting is to let everybody know this project's coming up, get their initial input, so the second meeting, hopefully with more folks, we'll show them what we're thinking about doing conceptually on the map. And then at the following meeting in January, we show them, here's kind of the final design. Are we good to move forward so we can start ordering things so we can do the project?
Okay. Does anybody need to put anything on the agenda for future items? Would anybody like to see any other items put on the future agenda? Okay. Sounds like we're ready to adjourn this meeting, so let's move to adjourn this meeting, and I appreciate everybody for their time and attention today. We had a great meeting. Thank you to the staff, and thank you to the people that participated, and we're adjourned.